Gundam.tk presents Master Grade Age-1 Titus. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs, 2Bs from GundamReviews.net. And as the Master Grade Age-1 Normal gets out of the way there, you can see the SD and the HG Titus. Anyway, the plates are empty, and that means it's time to take a look at the parts before we see the combined Master Grade 1/100th Age-1 Titus. With the focus being on pure physical strength with this guy, don't expect any weapons or wings. Pretty much it's just the forelimbs that are new here. Although you will be getting some 4 sets here of swappable fingers to go along with the extra flits. Remember, 2 of those are new. And you're going to be having these parts here to put on for the lariat and a holder there for all these effect parts to go along with the action-based connector. When you put it all together, the legs are going to feel just a little bit lighter than I figured for this size. They don't have too much of an inner frame on the inside, although it's not all that bad. But a few surprises. First of all, up here you're going to have these hips, which are going to rotate ever so slightly, but don't expect too much hip articulation. Although this part is going to move up and down without any difficulties. The red part here does not move whatsoever. When you get into the knees, you can see that you've got that big gray part there, and when you bend this down, you can see that this is going to split and reveal. It's not one of the better knees that I've seen done, but it's not one of the worst ones either. You can see the gray parts sliding around in there a little bit, and you're going to have this big part which has to be designed to come forward so that you can put the effect parts in there. However, I'd just say there's a little bit too much gray exposed overall. It is going to fold up nicely though. The ankles are the real unique feature here, and you can see that they're going to attach on very high. You've got a gray part in there, and this whole ankle assembly is going to attach on down below. You've got this white part which is going to go up and down so that you can hide it. One thing that I'm not a big fan of though is that you're going to have this part here, the ankle armor, which is going to be very, very loose, or so it feels. You can see that the way this is going to attach in here is going to connect the ankle. Don't expect too much articulation. It's going to move, but I don't really think that it should. But in terms of articulation, you can move it off to the side here, off to the side here, forward and back. So overall, I'd say it's pretty good. And what was a liability in the fact that it's loose just allows it to go everywhere with you having to fiddle around with it. And you can see that this is going to do pretty well for a flat foot test. And if a knee full of pain is your game, all you have to do is bend this part down and do this. And here's how it's going to look with the full impact of the knee coming at you. And over here, if you close it all up, I'd say that it's actually looking pretty good on there. It does certainly take away from that gray parts there when you do open it up. The arms feel like they've got a little bit more heft to them than the legs for some strange reason. First of all, for the shoulders, you're going to have this attachment point, and you can see that this is going to move up and down, so you can have the shoulders move while they're on the body. You can see that this red part is actually going to move independently there, which is sort of cool that it swings there. Here you've got these 4 gray attachment points where you can put on the effect parts, and you're going to have a shoulder which spins around very, very easily. You're going to have an elbow which is going to bend up, and you're going to get it up there, so about a 135. Down here you're going to have the ability to put on the beam lariats, and when you do that, you're basically just going to pull this whole thing down. Pull it too much and it's going to pop off, but you could have this extended to show off some of the gray inner frame, similar to the high grade, but when you do put it on, you are going to have to pop it off. For the wrists, which are sort of unique, you can see that you've got to put this whole wrist assembly together a little bit carefully because it is asymmetrical. You're going to be able to rotate these all around, and this nice gray part is looking very sharp here as you move the red parts up and down. You can see here though from the tick lines here with just that little bit of lining that they are going to move in unison with the red parts and not be unique. Now, something that some people are going to love and some people are going to hate, you're going to have a big oversized thumb here, which is going to have a point of articulation at the end. But in terms of the fingers, these are going to be wing style. So forget about this on a 16-meter Gundam. They're putting it on a large one here with oversized hands. So you're going to be able to swap these on and off, but you're not going to have the 3-finger trigger finger split, although for some reason this guy just doesn't seem to need it. Swapped off, here you have the grappling fingers getting ready to go forward, and then all you have to do is you can see that it pops off fairly well, and it's actually going to stay in there with a decent click sound when you put that in. And here you are with the karate chop fingers here, which is just going to be, do I even have those in the right way? Yeah, I do. Anyway, this is just going to provide one of the sillier hands. I don't think the Titus ever did a karate chop. I can't forget the splitting shoulders though, which was a great feature for the high grade. You already saw that this part here can move around, and this part can move here. What you can do is you can split this open like this, and when you do that with the high grade, you had a nice solid gray inner part there, which looked okay. Here you're just going to have a hollow cavity, it looks like. You do actually have some gray buried into the red, but you're never going to see that at any angle. And it's going to look good when you look at it this way, but what it does have over the high grade is, as mentioned, because this can move up and down, you can actually hide a lot of that empty cavity, and it will look okay, just not that impressive. I'd say it's a little bit of a step down for a master grade. Where yes, it's going to have the bonus of the flexibility, but even from a distance, I'd say that this one just has the edge because it has that solid gray part on the inside. So let's see how this is going to look with the effect parts. You just pop that off. And when you take these parts, you can see just how amazingly cool this is, that it's hollow there in 3 different sections. You can take this and plug it in here, and when you do that, it's going to line up in a nice way over there. Take this part and you can attach the hands back on. You could rotate these red parts around, I suppose. Here is the arm, fully hulked out as it can get. You can take these effect parts here, but one thing, unlike the high grade, which is actually going to have some little tick marks there, which are going to guide these into nice 45-degree angles so that they're all pointing away from each other. With this one, you're going to have to rotate them around manually so you get them at just the right angle, otherwise they're going to look a little bit awkward. But the beam lariat is a big step up on the high grade, which is just a solid piece. You don't really notice the gap here as much as I thought I would, but then again, to have these little lightning type kind of things, they just look like the energy is emanating out of the forearms into the lariat. I've got to say that that's a big bonus, and it is sort of cool, especially when you move it around, that you can see the parts behind it. The waist section is going to be half unique to the Titus, sharing a lot of similarities though with the normal. You are still going to have the bonuses of the ability to move the the waist parts around there, which I think is a big plus. On the front, you're not going to have any skirts coming down, which is hopefully going to allow the legs to come all the way forward for a knee full of pain. You're just going to have these small side skirts, which are just going to fit on an attachment point, and they do feel a little bit loose unless they're rubbing up against these back parts here, which can also feel a little bit loose unless you plug them properly into these yellow parts. I'd say that the back skirts are actually looking pretty good with some lining opportunities there, and this is just waiting for an old fondue kind of knife there for the MG. The upper body is a lot of fun to put together with all of those ABC parts in the multicolors looking great. I am still a big fan that they bothered to change the shoulders though. It's not such a big thing, but it's just a bonus. When you're putting the arms together, they actually have you do this as part of that, so I guess they could save money on the instructions, having the normal and the Titus be the same for everything up until here. One of the biggest differences though is that I changed the way I did the head here. Here I used the old traditional stickers there for the eyes and the old A. Whereas with the MG H1 normal, I went with the clear parts as much as possible there. You can see them in certain lights, they're going to look pretty good. But if you do want to go for the more vibrant one, certainly the old school seals. It's not utilizing all the technology that goes into the model, but then again, it's still going to give you something that's a little bit more visible from a distance. Something that I often overlook though is these little characters here, and here you can see 2 standing versions of Flit in his civilian yellow clothes and that silly character design which turned so many people off from Age in the beginning, and his normal suit with the helmet off. As for the other bonus, you're going to have the ability to take 7 on either side, even though it's got room for 8, so you can have a total of 14 out of 16 on here. And you can see that the awkward angle that they're all going to sit on, unless you twist them all into the right place, would be sort of cool if they had this ability to plug this into the back so that he could carry the effect parts off into war, although that is pretty ridiculous now that I say it out loud. Overall, when putting the parts together, I have to say that I had a lot of fun doing it just because it did not feel repetitive again. The little bit of bonuses, like when you're putting the chest together and just wondering when you're going to put on the red part and then seeing that it's going to be part of the arms, was a little bit cool, and the inner frame didn't come across as being all that exciting, and some of the things like the bends there for the knees exposing all those parts do seem a little bit dubious, but then again it remains to see how it's going to look in all the poses that you're going to try when it's in mobile suit mode, because who just poses parts well except in these parts of the videos that I do, and of course other people as well. The waist section is a lot of fun. I've got to say that it's very, very simple, but it's going to be probably one of my favorite of the 3. And these beam lariats, the fact that they've got that exposed part behind them is certainly a bonus. Not going to be as great, and the shoulders somewhat disappointing, but the effect parts somewhat make up for it, although they do seem a little bit small in proportion to the way they look on the high grade. Anyway, everybody, why don't you let me know what you think of the parts of the Age-1 Titus, and of course, the most important thing is going to be, how does it look all together? So stay tuned for the next part where I'll have the mobile suit mode all assembled, and why don't you let me know what you think with a comment down below about the video, the MS, the anime, and everything in between. Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. See you next time.